"I know you're having fun looking for vampire tracks, and I hate to interrupt," Alice said, trying a little too hard to sound casual. "But I need you to go check on Bella." "Why? What's wrong?" I asked frantically, already running in her direction. "Nothing, I don't think. At least not yet. I figured with everything going on, you'd want to keep a close eye on her. Everything was fine until a moment ago. Then suddenly I went blind. You know what that means," she said heavily. I suppressed a low growl as my feet instinctively ran faster. "Filthy wolves," I muttered. "Yes, they are that," Alice agreed. If anyone was more infuriated by the wolves, it was Alice. Nothing frustrated her more than not being able to use her ability. "Is she still at the house?" "I think so. I didn't see her leave, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Once she made the choice to leave, everything disappeared. She could be down there right now for all I know." "Hold on, I'm almost to the house," I said anxiously. A few seconds later, I saw her truck and felt relief rush over me. "She's still here," I breathed. "Thanks, Alice." "No problem. And by the way, let Bella know her choices affect me, too. It's really upsetting, seeing her simply disappear like that."
"I'll let her know. Talk to you tomorrow." The phone went silent as I reached the driveway. Without another thought, I opened the hood of her trunk and removed the first vital item I saw. I shut it quietly, then waited for Bella to come out. Sure enough, a few minutes later, Bella was flying out the front door. Looking somewhat guilty, she seemed to be checking over her shoulder every few steps, and when she finally stumbled into the car, she breathed a sigh of relief. It broke my heart to think of her purposely ignoring my warnings, when my only concern was for her safety. It hurt even more to think how angry she would be with me in a few moments. She made 2 attempts to start the engine before I made even the slightest movement. "Gah!" she gasped, finally noticing me in the seat beside her. If I hadn't been so focused on the situation at hand, it might have bothered me more that she hadn't noticed me right away. She always seemed so aware of my presence. "Alice called," I explained, and in the darkness I could see the recognition flash in her eyes. "She got nervous when your future rather abruptly disappeared 5 minutes ago." At this, her startled expression turned into one of absolute horror. "Because she can't see the wolves, you know," I clarified. "Had you forgotten that? When you decide to mingle your fate with theirs, you disappear too. You couldn't know that part, I realize that. But you can understand why that might make me a little anxious. Alice saw you disappear, and she couldn't even tell if you had left home or not. Your future got lost, just like theirs." I understood that this must be confusing to Bella, and I wished I could explain exactly why it happens, but it was a mystery to all of us. "We're not sure why this is. Some natural defense they're born with." It had been my first inclination, but I'd eventually written it off as just another theory. That doesn't seem entirely likely, since I haven't had any trouble reading their thoughts. The blacks, at least. Carlyle theorizes that it's because their lives are so ruled by their transformations. It's more of an involuntary reaction than a decision, utterly unpredictable, and it changes everything about them. In the instant when they shift from one form to another, they don't even really exist. The future can't hold them. I wondered if Bella was even still listening to me. I'd gotten so lost in my own thoughts. As much as I hated to admit it, maybe Carlyle wasn't the only one with some sort of sick fascination with the wolves. Obviously Bella was angry with me, and in many ways I couldn't blame her. She didn't believe the wolves were a threat, and thought I was being overprotective. She'd already proven earlier with Charlie that she hated when people treated her like a child, and I realized she would probably see what I was doing as falling into the same category. It didn't matter, though. I would accept her rage if it kept her safe. "I'll put your car back together in time for school, in case you'd like to drive yourself," I assured her, hoping perhaps futilely that she would forgive me as quickly as she had forgiven Charlie. She climbed out of the truck without a word, eyes cold and staring straight ahead. "Shut your window if you want me to stay away tonight. I'll understand," I said softly, feeling somewhat defeated as she shut the door. The second she was out of sight, I raced around to the side of her house and peered up at her window. Not even a minute later, Bella appeared, and with one swift motion, slammed it shut. My heart sank, though I had expected nothing less. I was debating staying outside her window anyway, reminiscent of the days when I watched her from afar. I would respect her wishes and not go inside, but the thought of spending the night away from her was nearly unbearable. I stared longingly up at her room, wishing there was a way to keep her safe that wouldn't make her shut me out. Then I saw her return, and once again wished I could read her mind. Her expression was a mixture of frustration and hurt, but despite whatever she was feeling, she took one final step towards the window and opened it widely. Excitement bubbled up inside, and I fought to remind myself she probably still needed time to herself. I didn't doubt for a moment that she was still upset with me, and I didn't want to push her too far too soon. I tried to convince myself it was better to wait. I almost made it to the count of 10 before climbing up and pulling her into my arms.